What is up, everyone? I am your host, Steffi Smalls, and welcome back to Smalls Talks Ball. I am back with my first ever guest when this show first came out, Jake Ellenbogen. I'm so excited to finally talk to you. Every single time, for some reason, the Lord or the universe, or I don't know, Mercury's in retrograde, we could not link up. It did not matter what was happening. It just was not working. So I'm so excited, especially after this crazy week that you're here. How are you doing?
Oh, I am great. I love being on here. The first time I still remember like most of what we talked about actually because we did it was a round table, not round table. We did Q&A like because people
Yeah.
asked me questions and we answered the mailbag and I was just thinking about some of those that we were asked and some of them in which like we gave the wrong advice because like it ended up just like working out the other way. I think about Zach,
Yeah.
just stuff like that. And I was
Right.
wow, it's
Right.
funny to
A
look
lot of
back.
it was like out of our hands. Some of the
Yeah.
answers, like people went to
Exactly.
jail, like stuff like that. Like
Yeah,
some of the stuff was not
I
like in
saw
our
that. I'm like,
control.
"Oh,
Like,
no."
yeah, things didn't go exactly. Sterling Shepard got hurt. Sterling Shepard is going back with the Giants, something I've been screaming about. I knew that this was going to happen. He is coming off that Achilles tear. He's not going to get a lot of money somewhere else. It's like 7 years, whatever it is. The Giants, he was going to take a pay cut. I mean, it makes
Yeah.
sense. They were going to get, dead money at like 4.5 million. Just re-sign the dude. It doesn't make sense.
Oh,
You
absolutely.
ask him to take a pay cut. You know.
I always like the fit, and I like the connection he has with Daniel Jones, so it makes a lot
Mm-hmm.
of sense.
Yeah, you can't expect him. You get rid of him and you get rid of like Slayton. So who are you left? Two guys that have barely played on the field with Daniel Jones, and a lot of changes. But we won't make this a Giants podcast. I will say, since it's my first time doing something, congratulations on the Super Bowl. How has it been?
Thank
Like,
you.
I know I remember I texted you, whatever it was. You're like, I've been kind of in Super Bowl land, or whatever
Yeah.
you were saying. I haven't even been paying attention.
It was incredible. It's funny because I predicted it would happen before the season, and I know, you see the Ram stuff in the back and you're like, "Oh, of course, like the homer." But, like,
Mm-hmm.
realistically, Steph, I think this is, like, the first year that I ever picked them to win the Super Bowl because
Mm-hmm.
I felt like when they got Stafford, that was it. That was the missing piece. I did say on your show, I think someone asked, Robert Woods or Cooper Kupp, and I said Robert Woods, and then Cooper Kupp turned into like Megatron overnight. Like
Oh
I
yeah.
was not expecting. I don't think anybody was expecting that, truthfully. So it was
No.
just it was incredible. And then kind of following that, I spent a week kind of just decompressing. Went on vacation. Was able to kind of clear my mind a little bit, and then the Super Bowl came. Then after the Super Bowl, it's just been kind of like, watching the numbers go up and the analytics and the things that are good,
Yeah.
you're starting to see the benefits of it. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I bet. I can imagine. So, this is what everyone talks about. You hear it all the time. It's not easy to go back to the Super Bowl. I think that, the Rams probably have a better chance than the Bengals. Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong. That's fine. But what do you think, like, if you can name like two things right off the top of your head, what do they need to do to run it back next year?
Yeah, I mean they're put in a kind of a weird position here, because speaking of run it back, the guy who wants to run it back, Aaron Donald, is all of a sudden kind of playing hardball with them and saying, "Oh, I might retire." It was never about retirement. He wants to get paid. I have
Hmm.
big feelings about this. Obviously, he's the best defense player in the league, probably the best player in the league. But my biggest issue here is if you want to run it back, you want to say I'm not coming back unless they pay Odell and Vaughn. Maybe don't ask for like a rework of your contract to try to be the highest paid defense player again.
Hmm.
Just a thought. But I do get that's how this business works. I just think they
Hmm.
really have to figure out a way to kind of alleviate the damage, and they're going to lose guys. Make no mistake about it. Jordan Rodriguez was reporting, they're focusing on paying Donald. They're focusing on paying Stafford.
Hmm.
14 to 16 million sounds about like the sweet spot for Von Miller, who I do believe will be back with the Rams. Odell's
Hmm.
definite. The only question with Odell is it a 1 year, 2 year, 3 year deal? But
Hmm.
they love him and he loves them. And then, that's really it as far as who is likely to be back and who's likely to get a contract. That leaves Joseph Noteboom, the left tackle, who would be taking over for Andy
Mm-hmm.
should he retire, to be kind of up in the air. And that also leaves, Pro Bowl alternate center Brian Allen, who they do want back. If he doesn't take like a cheaper deal, they might let him go. Austin Corbett, I mean, you might as well just put, him with a Bengals jersey on, because I feel like he's going to go join Zach Taylor in Cincinnati. Makes a lot of sense there.
Yeah.
And then Sebastian Joseph Day, who's one of the best run defenders in the game, kind of fell out of favor when he was hurt, because Greg Gaines really, stepped it up. So that's another guy. So you're going to lose a lot of guys. And really, Steph, you're not going to run it back in the term of, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, how they brought everyone back. And that's okay. I mean, I think that, the interest there with Bobby Wagner is definitely exciting. And they've had two former Rams that were on the roster when they played the New England Patriots in the Super Bowl, in Roger Saffold, who I think could fill in at
Mm-hmm.
guard should they lose Corbett. And then Corey Littleton, who, he gets a lot of hate. He just did not fit schematically with the Raiders. He was the guy that, he collected a lot of tackles with them, but this is somebody that does it all as a blitzer, somebody that can work obviously in coverage and stop the run. I mean, he had 8.5 sacks with the Rams and those 3 years starting as an inside linebacker. I think he would offer something. I think they could get him on a cheap deal. So
Yeah.
they just have to find a way to kind of alleviate the damage, because you're not gonna bring everyone back the way Tampa
Yeah.
does. It just doesn't happen.
Right. And people forget too, and it's funny because I feel like there's this new trend where everyone wants to be the highest paid insert position, which is
Yep.
exhausting, because what people
Yes.
forget is Tom Brady, when he was on the Patriots, a lot of that success came to taking a lower salary so he could fill the roster around him with very good talent. And that's, he was able to do that. He has a supermodel wife that makes just enough money. So if he wants to take a little bit of a pay cut, he gets a bit of a pay cut. So people forget, like, there is something to that. Let me restructure my contract so that I can put my team in a better position. But obviously you don't get that. It's funny though. These kids are getting so greedy.
I mean, they are. I was just talking to my father about this morning. I was like, "Hey, Dad, remember when they went out and got Jake Long for $8 million a year, and that was considered like, oh my God, they just got a left tackle for $8
Mm-hmm.
million. That's a lot of money." And now it's like $8 million to pay your backup. Like, it's
Yeah.
crazy. Like, the
Yeah.
league and
It's
the
ridiculous.
inflation rate is through the roof.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, the league's fine. It's fully healthy. No team is in the
Mm-hmm.
red, so to speak, as far as, a franchise. But I mean, now, it doesn't matter how much the salary cap goes up. The bigger players are going to want more. And that's, what the
Mm-hmm.
rumored Aaron Rodgers, 50 million a year. I got to say, I love Aaron. I've been big on him. I've called him the GOAT for a while, but I will say this. I think the 50 million a year, if that's true, like, he has no reason to complain anymore. I don't want to hear, well, I
Mm-hmm.
want this guy. Why didn't we sign this guy? We need to
Mm-hmm.
be able to, sorry, we can't bring all those guys back because we paid you. That's how it
Mm-hmm.
works. The money
Yeah.
has to come from somewhere. It does not grow on
Right.
trees, so that's the way it is.
Gosh. Yeah, I
That's
think
why
people
I'm
forget though,
glad you brought
really,
up the
like,
Brady thing, though. That's why.
yeah, a lot of it is like, people forget. Like, yeah, he ran it back and he went to how many Super Bowls in New England? Like, he
Yeah.
did that because he literally they were able to pay other players so that he always had talent around him. Like, someone gets hurt, that's fine. We'll just go out and pay someone else because Brady's only making X amount. So it's crazy. And I want to circle back to, Cooper Cup, which a lot of people can get right, fantasy. Speaking of run it back, what do you think his fantasy outlook is for next year? Should people be tempering expectations?
It's like, I want to say yes, but I don't really know, because with Odell not coming back until November, and from what I'm told, that Odell, he's
Mhm.
going to be a Ram. Like, he's not leaving. So he won't be back until November. Van Jefferson had some impressive strides,
He
going over
did.
800 yards in his second season, being sixth in the league in yards per reception. True deep threat. But Cooper Kupp is the guy on third down. Cooper Kupp's the guy on fourth down. Cooper Kupp will take, as we saw in the fourth down play, to really extend that game-winning drive against the Bengals. He
Mhm.
took an end around And I mean, he has
Yeah.
the ability to really help you all over the place. Plus, he's an amazing blocker, so you don't have to take him out in those situations. He's on the field at all times. He's always, clutch. And now the weird thing is Cooper Cup's torn ACL that forced him to miss the first Super Bowl might have actually been a blessing in disguise because he re-taught himself how to run, and I feel like since he's
Mhm.
been more explosive.
Yeah, I think he was able to come back from that, I mean, he looked just like a better player. Like he really
Yeah.
took the time to refine everything about his technique, everything about the player he is on the field. And he's also, there's something to this. He's a very modest. He kept his head down. Like he doesn't. You don't hear him going out and running his mouth. Like he's just
No.
a good quality in character as a player. I think the only thing that could prevent him, and knock on wood, obviously, we don't wish if an injury were to come, like
Yeah.
maybe we have to stop or hold him back. Is he going to finish as well as he did this year? Maybe not, but I think he should still be getting drafted, especially in redraft leagues, the same way you were doing it. Actually, higher because last year everyone was so much lower on him. So this year it's like he's in that conversation still.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think for people that say there's no chance he's wide receiver one again, I mean, I disagree with that. But
Yeah,
you
you also
know,
didn't think he was wide receiver one last year, and you were wrong.
yeah,
So
I mean, I thought Robert Woods was the better one to own, and for a
yeah,
while they were 1A,
right.
1B.
Hmm.
With Robert Woods returning, I'm curious because we saw last year,
Hmm.
Woods was used to kind of, he was used in those rub routes to kind of create space for
Hmm.
Cup. Now,
Right.
I don't know if that was an introductory season type of deal where they're like, this is what's working. We're going to stick with it. And like, Stafford, because we've talked about it before. You and I think we've talked about it with,
We've
how
talked about
Brady
everything.
in year two, you know,
Yeah.
Brady in year
Hmm.
two, more comfortable with the offense, able to add some nuances to the offense, things like that. It's just night and day. It's like, I think he likened it to his first year, someone did. His first year is like when you're new at like this brand new school, you have all your friends and like homeroom and whatnot, but like,
Yeah.
you don't really know everything yet. And then your second year, like, oh,
Hmm.
I got this, I know this. That's going to be Stafford next year, and I'm excited for that. But I don't know if that comes with the idea of Cooper Cup being as utilized, or if they're going to try to mix it up more. And the thing here,
Right.
very aware of, is that Sean McVay, throughout his coaching career, has been tested. You look at 2017, they lose to the Falcons in the wild card round. They come back in 2018, go to the Super Bowl.
Hmm.
Vic Fangio's game against them when he was the defensive coordinator for the Bears, little did we know, was the blueprint on how to stop that Sean McVay offense with Goff and
Hmm.
Gurley and etc.
Yeah.
Then 2019, they could not get to that next level. 2020, Sean McVay's trying to change things, still can't. Now he gets Stafford. You see what Cooper Cup's doing. The question remains, are teams going to try to do what the Bengals did and try to take Cooper Cup out of games and just let Robert Woods be? Because if that's the case, then Robert Woods could have a monstrous season. Van Jefferson could. And I'm looking at Tyler Higbee because until November, he's 3 or 4 target there.
Yeah.
I think Stafford, his ability to spread the field out really keeps all of them relevant. But I think Cooper Cup could still be a wide receiver one. I actually really do like Jamar Chase or Justin Jefferson as a wide receiver one next
Me
year. Just
too.
I think
Yeah.
there's so much like,
I think
spreading the ball.
Jefferson is due. I think next year,
Jefferson
like
with
we haven't.
O'Connell.
It's yeah. I don't,
It's
and I think it's a little underestimated too. I think for some reason, like Justin Jefferson very quietly had a phenomenal year in a just absolutely disgusting Zimmer offense that did
Yep,
not benefit him. I think that,
exactly.
as much as these little Kirk, I don't even know who's making up the Kirk rumors. Like Kirk isn't going anywhere. I would be like next year at least. Like unless they want to do something, his salary is ridiculous, and he really should restructure it just for the team himself. But that might be a problem for another year. I don't think this year. I don't think they're going to make these abrupt changes. But like
Oh yeah.
for someone to actually trust Kirk, like you could tell, like they did not trust Kirk to air the ball out. But then when he did, all of a sudden it's like, oh my God, look at how good that receiver Justin Jefferson is. Like, no shit. He is is fantastic. I think next year, like, he is someone that I am targeting as much as I possibly can. He, I think if they can just let the reins off, trust Kirk a little bit, stop with oh my God, they were pretty hard to watch. I'm not gonna lie. They reminded me a lot like the Giants. It was very similar play calling,
They have
and
all
it's
the talent, but
frustrating
it's just you're
because you
sitting
have
there and you're
talent
like,
there. What are you doing? So Kirk needs to he definitely needs to step it up. But I think a lot of that is like, dude, give the kid a little confidence. Tell him to throw the ball down the field. Like, stop with these bullshit play calling and use what you have. So I think next year could be huge, especially if they revamp that team a little bit. Because they're another team, it has to be painful to be a Vikings fan because it's like everything is right there.
yeah.
And I think that they could fill some holes and make some moves that this Vikings team too, like I would keep an eye on them next year because if they are able to wrap it all up together, I think that they're a team to watch out for because they have a lot of guys that are coming back. They have, they have a decent amount of draft capital that they can fix things, but to allow Kirk to be the quarterback on that team and to allow him to use his weapons properly instead of just handing the ball off to Dalvin Cook every 25 seconds, you might see a little bit more scoring, a little bit more winning. But that's a team I'm excited for. But Justin Jefferson in particular, especially fantasy wise, like that kid's special. And we haven't seen anything out of him yet.
Well, I just feel like the Vikings, I mean, they were my pick to win the division if Rodgers left. I mean, easily, because I mean, they're going to get Irv Smith back. No one's talking about that either. I'm excited for that. So they're going to get Irv
Yeah.
Smith back. Adam Thielen is also an incredible receiver in his own right. Unbelievable route runner. And
Right.
while people will look at that in fantasy and how that takes away from Jefferson, I think it helps because when you have two guys on the opposite ends like that,
Yeah.
that are, equally talented as, route runners and, can be relied upon, that helps. I also think, second year receiver, a guy that I really like coming out of Iowa,
Yeah.
Amir Smith-Marset. I
I
think I might have
love
mentioned him on the
him.
last show.
Yes, I am very high on him. He's another
I
one.
think he's going to be really good. But
They've
then they're
got a
running
receiver
backs
room. Yeah, they're running
because
backs too.
say okay, like Dalvin goes down. You have Alex Madison. Say he goes down. You have Kene and Nwangwu. I mean, I love that guy. That guy's fast as hell. Like,
He's phenomenal. If you guys didn't see like any of his returns last year, you need to literally go on YouTube and watch him. Like he is phenomenal. And I think that he's someone that can be like if they want to put their eggs in that basket and give him a bigger role, he absolutely is that guy that can do that.
oh, well, he kind of reminds me of Kenyon Drake. Like, I think he'll have a role someday as a legit running back. Like, I know Drake started as kind of like that return guy, like really fast, but like he molded his way into like becoming an RB2 or even an RB1 for some teams. So, I think that in Nwangwu's a guy long term that you'd be looking at. But I mean, the Vikings have been doing work. They added Darisaw last year. I don't feel like he didn't have the opportunity to fully take advantage of last year because he had the injury. But you have O'Neal. They've been adding guys on their offensive line. Their defense, I think, is going to be pretty good.
Their secondary just
like,
needs an upgrade. Their secondary stinks there. That's all I have to say about it. It's just not good. And I think, but
no, it's not.
they have that 12th pick. Like you're in a very good spot in a deep class where if you want to go and get a cornerback, like you're going to have like very good options there to get someone
If
that's
they
going to
get
be
my
on the
guy
team.
Sauce Gardner,
The Giants get him.
I mean, he's the best corner in this draft. I don't care what anyone says. I know everyone's on Stingley. He's at LSU, but trust the sauce. That's all I'm going to say.
Yeah, he's phenomenal. He's also, he just plays with such confidence too. Like that's what you want. And he's
a freak.
Especially good for a team that might need band-aids in like a couple areas because he's very versatile. Like he can do a lot.
Oh yeah.
I love him. I'm going to be so sad. I'm like totally fine with the Giants taking him. Like,
he's not just a shutdown corner though, Steph, which I love. Yeah. He can do that. He has no issue doing that, but he can also jump routes. I mean, and he does it in a way that doesn't give away his position where he can get burned. Like he's not going to get burned in the NFL. I think if you're looking for a day one impact, like comparison, I think he'll be like Patrick Surtain meets Jalen Ramsey. Like that's what I think we're looking at. I think we're looking at like the next elite corner in this league. That's not to say Stingley can't. That's not to say any of these guys can't, but I do
Yeah.
believe that if I had to put my money on any sort of corner to be a star, it'd be Sauce Gardner in this draft. He
Yeah.
looks
Yeah.
unbelievable.
The jury's still out for me on that McDuffie kid. I was watching his tape. Some things I'm not, I
I
can't
like
I can't
him.
fall in love with him.
Click and
Yeah.
close, he's got it. Like, that guy,
Mhm.
I mean, he takes off and he's like a rocket, I like his other
Mhm.
teammate,
He's
Kyler Gordon, a
patient,
lot.
and he reads the feed very, very well. Like, he will
Yeah.
wait for something to happen. So he's that guy, like, when, like, shit's about to hit the fan, "Oh, don't worry." Like, he's already waiting for the
The
something
guy
to come
next
to
to
him, and he got it.
Sauce, Kobe Bryant.
I like him too. Yeah, I liked
I
him a
like the
lot at
length,
the
I like,
yeah.
I think he could be a good player. There's some other
Mhm.
guys in this class for sure. Another guy I really like,
Yeah.
remember this name? Monteric Brown, Arkansas.
Okay.
He is not the
I'll have to
fastest
look
because
at
I
him.
don't care about the combine, like, I wanna see you run, like, on film.
Yeah,
And,
I don't
it's
care
like,
about
it's cool,
yeah.
right? Like, "Oh, yeah, he ran a 4.3," but he plays like a 4.5 on film. To me, I use the combine more to find red flags in players because 'cause I'm like, "I wanna know, why
Mhm.
did you run a 4.3 here and you're not running it on tape? Like, I need you to run it in the game." And, like,
You're right.
Monteric, when the he's on the field, I mean, he's sticky, he's hard to get rid of. 4.5 speed, which is not bad. And he's got,
Mhm.
length. He has got ball skills, good ball production. In the SEC, that's a name to watch.
Interesting. Yeah, the combine, because they're obliterating. I tweeted yesterday, like this. Everyone now being out on Burks is like the most obnoxious thing and like very Twitter esque. You guys do this every year. Last year it was like, oh, Jamar Chase says the ball is too big for his hand, so forget Jamar Chase. Like, it's just too much. Like,
That
it,
was silly.
the combine should not change your. In some cases, yes, there's reasons. I get it, but like the combine is not made to change your entire opinion on a player the way it sometimes does. Especially, it's mostly fantasy Twitter. It's not as much like the NFL Twitter.
Well,
But
NFL draft
it's
Twitter, I would say,
yeah, it has.
because I
This
mean,
year has been bad.
remember Russo, Gregory
Yeah,
Russo. Okay, he plays one season, right? Freshman or whatever. He has like
yeah,
18, 17 sacks at Miami,
yeah.
and then he sits out and he gets penalized for sitting out. And they're like, "No, he's trash, bro." I'm like, "What are you talking?" I went through, I watched the tape. I'm like, where are you seeing? Where is he trash? And then he goes to the NFL. I'm like, he wasn't ever gonna have a giant role with the Bills, but he was a key contributor. And there were some games where, I mean, he could really, I mean, imagine having him and Ed Oliver. I mean, remember people used to talk about Ed Oliver like he
Yeah.
was God's gift. I mean, they got some good stuff there. Actually, the Bills, if anybody's going to knock off the Rams in the Super Bowl, it will be the Bills. I think
Yeah.
they look really good this year. But no, that's my point though, is that when you look at these guys, it's like it's just all these different excuses about why this guy isn't good. Like, we see it all the time. High productive players
Mhm.
in college. Notice the guys that lead the NCAA in sacks, like, for their career, they set
Mhm.
records. Like, I don't know, the guy that got picked by the Ravens, Sackmaster from, I think,
Oh
La
my
Tech.
god.
Everyone's just like, nope, he's not good. You know, they don't like
It's
high productive
crazy.
players. They like these guys that haven't really proven a lot and have a high ceiling. Like,
Yeah. And you're
that's what
almost
I've
better
noticed.
off that way too. And a lot of these guys, right? Like, I feel like when you're, you watch tape and like I look at the combine, like I want to see like, damn, why does he look so small? Like, or why does he
Yeah.
look like he's running so fast? Is that actually matching out? Like, how does that compare with like someone like James Cook, for example, like a Damian Pierce? Like, those are guys that were going, a little bit more under the radar, especially James Cook with his size. I mean, he put on 9 pounds since college. That's not insignificant. Like, he's obviously, and that's another thing. Then you're talking about the player as just a football player. Like, he's obviously motivated. I mean, you don't put on 9 pounds. He didn't go to the Senior Bowl. Is that because he was preparing himself for the combine? He's taking things seriously. So people overreact very, very easily to the combine. But again, like sometimes, yeah, if these guys have some knocks against them, it's going to rely on where they end up too. Like, there's some teams that could absolutely pull the talent out of them.
Yeah, I think a big thing that doesn't get talked about enough. There are some great, I mean, there's some great agents out there. Like, absolutely, like, they care about
Mhm.
the players. I'm forgetting about the top
Mhm.
female one, but she's
I
phenomenal.
know who you're talking about. I saw her post something the other
Yeah,
day.
I met her at the Senior Bowl. She's really
You
nice,
did?
and
She's
yeah,
so yeah.
she's very good at what she does. We'll just say that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember she had Quinnen Williams. I think that was one of her top, but anyway,
Yeah, that's right.
agents,
It is. You're right. That's what I saw.
yes, not all agents think this way, but I feel like a lot of agents set up these guys to fail without even realizing because they don't know
Mhm.
what they're doing. Because they're like, hey, well, here's what we're going to do. This is your plan, all right? You're an edge defender, right? We want to make sure that you test well. So we're going to have you lose about 20 to
Mhm.
30 pounds. And then, you're going to run a 4-3 instead of running like a 4-5. Like, say, we're going to get you to 4-3. And now all of a sudden, you have this guy set to fail because say he runs a 4-3, it's at that weight. So now he's been drafted with these crazy expectations. All the content creators like us are talking about, oh, we ran a
Mhm.
4-3. You have the NFL, all of that. And then he goes into camp and it looks slow, and it's funny how that works, right? It's like, wait, he's slow. He was fast. It's because he lost all that weight. This team now that drafts him, because this is before any team drafts him, now this team that
Mhm.
drafts him, like, well, we're going to play you in this way. So now he has to gain that 20 pounds that he lost, and he's not as fast. Doesn't mean he's not as good of a player. It's just that's the
Yeah.
problem is I think a lot of these agents are saying gain this weight, lose this weight just to look good. It's kind of like fake it till you make it, and it always
Right.
comes out in the wash. And that's my theory on why I believe some of these players that don't test well or do test well and don't end up doing well in camp and struggle. That's that.
Right. Look at John Ross, right? Still holds that record for the fastest guy. He's doing what in the league right now? But everyone
Yeah,
was gushing over him. I mean, he was a very good It's besides the point, but it's like sometimes there's a little bit of an overreaction. And I think you need to pair it nicely with what you're seeing on the field too.
I think there's an overreaction in the Notre Dame running back. I'm just going to say that right now. Kyron Williams. If a
Oh,
guy can
yeah.
pass protect, I don't care how fast he is. If a guy can
Mm-hmm.
pass protect, he is going to get an opportunity to play in the NFL. The
Mm-hmm.
guys that don't pass protect, they need all the help they can get. They need the athleticism, they need the flashy plays. Kyron Williams has those flashy plays. He's not super fast, but he breaks tackles. He has good contact balance. He also ran a 4.65. I don't know why we're acting like that's the end of his career.
Yeah.
But he's an amazing pass protector, probably the best in the class. So, no, he's not Brees Hall. He's not that athlete. But I'd argue he's a better in pass pro than Brees Hall. And I mean, when you get to that level, can I keep you on the field in third down situations? If I can't, you know,
Yeah. Even like some like Damian Pierce, right? Like there's a difference in a player not being good in college and a player that is in a scheme or has a coach or is on a team that does not utilize them very well. Like he's another one.
yeah,
Like he's good in pass protection. He gets the job done. It's very hard to take him down. He is a very nasty player. And he's someone that's gonna make a team very, very happy. But I think a lot of this underhype for him is that because he was he's underutilized. If you don't, people are so literal. Like I don't see him on the field, so he's not good. No, that's
I
quite
love
literally
that.
not how it works. Like he, there's so much more to like a situation, and he's gonna make a backfield very happy.
Well, it's funny because like we see that with Bama, right? Like when people acted like, all right, the Tua Tagovailoa thing when he won the title
Mm-hmm.
and all that, great story. It's not the greatest story ever. He was a top recruit. It's not like he was a 1 star or a walk on.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
people act like, oh well, he's the backup. So like the backup at Alabama would start on any team. So I always laugh at that. But what are your thoughts on Hassan Haskins, the running back from Michigan? I really like it.
I do really like him. I think it's funny because I like once I moved to Michigan, obviously they were doing pretty well here. So I watched
Yeah,
a lot of those games, and he's another one. Like he is very there's a lot of nasty running backs
I like nasty.
in this
Yeah,
class, and I like that nastiness, like these bigger guys that are literally running through players. Like, so what do you think about? So, are you not a Walker person? Because it's starting to feel that way.
I mean, I think he's pretty solid. I mean, I have my guys. I think
Yeah.
the problem is looking at it from the standpoint of like who like would the Rams be interested in. I've spent more time with like the third to fifth to sixth round guys because I could see them going after
Mhm.
running back. Because
Right.
they're not going to bring back Sony Michelle. I think he's going to go get paid. But
Yeah.
I really like Haskins. I like that he's played in big games. I like his contact balance. I like this guy's nose for the end zone, and I can't stress that enough, Steph. Because the thing that actually
Mhm.
concerns me about Cam Akers is that he's not a good red zone back. I'm tired of people acting like he is. And I think that is going to hurt his
Mhm.
fantasy value. Whether people realize it or not, he'll probably still go in the first round, maybe the second. But he has
Mhm.
an issue in the red zone. It's not
Yeah, he
these,
does.
it may come off like, oh, just look at that crazy fumble it's just a freak
Mhm.
fumble, right? That's happened twice at the 1 yard line in the last like
Mhm.
2 years or so since he's been in the league.
Mhm.
So I just feel like there are guys that have it and there are guys that don't. And I'm not saying Akers doesn't, but he's got to get better at that. Haskins, I know, has a nose for the end zone. Like he is a goal line back at worst. He'll score 10 touchdowns a season like James
Oh,
Conner did
yeah.
this year. Like Todd Gurley. No one talks about this. 2019, like Todd Gurley was done, right? Like the Rams weren't bringing him back. He had his worst season. He had 12 touchdowns. Like that's production. Even if you're not
Yeah,
getting the
and now
yards,
you're saying that, like,
production.
Haskins is one of the better, like,
That's what I'm
goal line
saying.
backs. He might be like, I'm not gonna make any bold statements right now because again, like, I haven't finished working through, all the
Same.
running backs totally, but, he is probably one of the better, goal line backs in this class. Another guy that I like, not as much like he's not really goal line backy, but, Tyler Batty is very interesting to me. He's
Oh, yeah,
going,
yeah, yeah.
I think he's a very good complementary, like third down, change of pace type guy. And I think if a team can utilize him well, his measurements make him. He's more for a committee, and that's fine. But this isn't going to be a fantasy relevant guy, but he's someone that I find very interesting that a team might get in one of those later rounds that ends up making an impact. He's another one who I'm trying to think who else
You gotta check
I
out that
like.
FIU running back. They're saying like he'd probably go like sixth, seventh round. I think he could be the next Chris Carson. I mean, Chris Carson, seventh round
Mhm.
pick, became fantasy
Hmm.
relevant, became a starter. I had us shaking our heads when they selected Rashad Penny when they got such great value in the
Yeah.
seventh round. They spent a first round pick, but no, I think he can be like Chris Carson, big back. Again, I love the contact balance. I mean, that's a big thing for me because when I see you, like, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but like when I see like say Brandon Jacobs, you're way
Hmm.
too big to go down at first hit. Like you should be up. You should be running through the contact. You should be falling forward,
Hmm.
not getting blasted back. And I think there's a lot of guys that look the part. You'll get a 248
Hmm.
pound back who's 6'3", and you would never want to be fighting him in an alley. But for whatever reason, when this guy runs into you, he falls the other way. And I've seen a lot of that. Whereas,
Yeah.
the guys I'm talking that have this contact balance, they can run through these guys. They pick the right approach. They don't just run right at them. I mean, some do. But then like some guys, being slippery in space and making sure that
Hmm.
you can keep your legs moving. That's to me an important thing. I think
It's
Haskins has
huge. It's
that.
huge.
Brees Hall has that. I mean, he's
He
fast.
does.
He's fast. Don't get me wrong, but he
Yeah.
also has that power in his
Yeah.
game.
Brian
So
Robinson interests me so much,
I
honestly, and I
know.
I can't fall in love with him because I just think, he higher size at the position. He's like, I forget what his numbers were at combine, but I know in college he was like 6'1", like under 230. I think he was like 226 or something. And he has that where like he's this bigger guy that just because, he gets hit, he's still running through guys. He runs with
Yeah.
power and with strength. And then it's like the speed concern, is that gonna start to impact? I don't know. So he's on my list to watch a little bit more, but I like him. I like what I've seen from him. But there's a lot of
Oh,
right. You know
I
what
hate it.
team I go?
I hate it in mock drafts because like everyone's like, I think you liked my tweet. Everyone's hoarding me like to try and go do a Rams mock draft. And I'm like,
Oh yeah, they keep
you
if
know,
one more listen, Giants, I will do it. I just need I need a damn second. Like I'm not gonna do these either if like I need to know who's going where. Like if is
exactly.
Bradbury restructuring or is he leaving? Is Blake Martinez restructuring or is he leaving? Like those are kind of a big deal. Is Saquon getting like I need to
Yeah,
know those things before I'm going to like just go out and start because every time I do it, I'm like, oh, this is cool. But then if this happens, that would impact a lot of what I do.
exactly.
So I think Evan Ingram's definitely gone. I like the tight ends. Not everyone loves them. That's fine. I don't really care. I think it's a good class. I really like Greg Dulcich. Everyone knows I won't, bore everyone to death talking about him again, but he's another one. Like, and his combine, he's a good example of like, was highlighted exactly who he is. It matched up with what I thought on film. And there was a lot of those guys, some of the other ones weren't as. Who's that one kid that was that Woods, that tight end Woods?
Oh,
Where does he play? Can't think of where he
yeah, I'm
plays right
so
now.
out of the tight ends because I was like,
Yeah,
you
you
know,
should
I
check
I
it
had to
out.
start. I had to start with corner because I'll tell you right now,
Yeah,
like I think that there's so many corners in this class. I mean, I think a
yeah.
lot are gonna be gone by like round 3, which is gonna be so upsetting. But I think there's a lot of good talent. I'm not a big fan of McCreary from Auburn. Like I'm not trying to hate on the guy. I just
Mhm.
like I feel like I saw him getting mocked in the first round. I wasn't super impressed with his tape. Not to say he shouldn't be drafted or anything like that, but just wasn't super impressed. I really like the two Washington guys, McDuffie and Gordon. I like Kyrie Elam. I think he reminds me of Trayvon Diggs a little bit.
Mhm.
Not really making a comparison there, but like he kind of reminds me of him to a degree.
Yeah.
Um, and then that one wide receiver from Memphis, I love Calvin
Oh,
Austin.
I love him. Please, I
We're gonna
can't.
be
I love him
interviewing him in
so
like
much.
2 weeks, so
Yeah,
he's
he
not
is
he's not he has
fantastic.
no chance of coming to the Rams. So the fact that he wanted to come
Yeah.
on our show is pretty cool. But yeah, we
Yeah,
can't wait to talk to him.
he's a good example too. Like he's another one that has that body control and that balance
Oh
and
yeah,
like he's so quick. The BMI people, yes, they're going to hate him, which he actually, it, he came in a little bit better than I probably expected, but the dude's small. Yeah, we know. I see him, he's small. I got it. I don't really care if he can
oh
make
I don't
plays
care
because you
at
need
all.
to be able to stop him. He gets such good separation. It is out of control. Like it doesn't matter. He could be so heavily defended and he just shimmies guys off him. Like does not matter. Get out of my face, get out of my way.
He gives me
And
Rondell Moore vibes, honestly.
yeah, he does. That's a good example. I think he's even a little bit
If I
smaller,
see
isn't he?
if I see another Corey Coleman comparison, I'm gonna lose my mind. He is
Yeah, no.
nothing like Corey Cole. I hated Corey Coleman coming out. Like I didn't hate him as a
Mhm.
person, but I just didn't like the first round hype. I never bought it. Was not a fan. Plus, I'm I watch a lot of Big 12 football because my team
Mhm.
is Kansas, my main team. And so like I watch Baylor and I'm like, Corey Coleman does not impress me the way like and you know how you listen to college announcers talk, and they're like, "Wow, they're really pushing for this guy to go to the NFL." Because, like, yeah, scouts are raving about this. I love hearing that every
No,
time. They're like,
yeah.
"Scouts rave about this guy doesn't get drafted."
Mhm.
Like, were the
Yeah.
scouts raving, or were you just making stuff up?
Yeah, I think
Come
you're
on,
running out of things to say,
yeah.
probably. Like, even Calvin Austin too, like, everyone knocks him, like, he's a better route runner than everyone likes to act like. Like, he
Oh,
is
I
not the
know.
player that people talk about. That's why I encourage people to, like, actually go and watch. Like, you don't need to, like, go break down, like, you can literally just watch highlights or even watch, just clips of the game itself. You don't have to, like, dig too far into it. It's not that serious. Before
Yeah.
I let you get out of here, I want to obviously bring up, one of the big moves this week was the Russ trade. I think everyone is being a little negative about what Seattle got. I don't think I'll let you
Oh,
do your
really?
spiel. I don't. If
I'm
Seattle was better
curious.
at drafting, I think that people would be speaking a little differently. I think that Seattle, I actually credit them for blowing everything up. I think that I would love to be in their position as a rebuild. Like, I'm just not understanding what all the hate is. Like, you're getting rid of a Yes, a fantastic quarter. I'm not saying this is not anything on Russ. Bottom line is he's still getting older, right? Fine. We'll just put that there on the side. But you're gaining so much, and they're not stuck in this place where they are not allowed to draft a quarterback and they're not allowed to find one in free agency. If I'm Seattle, I know I suck at drafting. I know I suck at, I mean, their front office that we could spend literally 2 hours on their front office. But like, if I'm them, what's stopping them from drafting a quarterback at 9 if they like one? What's stopping them? And then you know what? They usually, I mean, their first round drafting is like an abomination. Like that's a legitimate concern.
We
Like
talked about earlier with Rashad.
The league should be fought. Like the league fought the CLC for what they have done in the first round, dating back to like 2012. Like it is embarrassing. I mean, they haven't even had first round picks, but I think that they're in a, Seattle was not going to be a 500 team next year. They weren't a 500 team this year. Like this does not change anything. It just means, all right, we got to get our shit together and we need to start this rebuild. Should have started it last year. But now at least you have a little bit more draft capital. Like, I don't understand.
I'm just so glad we're on the same side here.
Oh, I was like,
I knew we were going to be. I knew we were going to be because you and I, like, we just think that way. Okay, first off, let me just say this right now. Russell Wilson is a great quarterback, and all time he's going to be an all-timer, right? He's going to be a Hall of Famer. But right now, I have concerns. First off, I don't think the velocity looks the same since he came back from the thumb. That's the first thing. No. So when you don't have the ball velocity you used to have, that's an issue. Second thing,
the decline started last year when I told you guys to sell Metcalf because that offense was not the same offense that everyone is acting like.
Well, I think everyone overrated the fact that got Shane Waldron from the Rams and that they were going to run McVay's offense. It's like you have to have McVay to run McVay's offense. I'm not hating on Shane Waldron, but I like what they were doing. And they got Everett. I thought Everett was solid. I like that they went out and got Dwayne Eskridge there. Eskridge didn't have a big role because he got hurt, but like I like him long term. But I was actually just on my show, I think last week, saying they need to blow it up. They just need to absolutely blow it up. They're the cockroach.
That's what I said.
They're the cockroach there. They don't want to die. You got to die. You got to rebirth. You got to stop just existing, and you have to blow it up because this
be
is
a
not
phoenix. You don't have to make it negative.
Yeah, this is not.
You're a phoenix. We got to burn to the ground. You can have a rebirth again, and that's what Seattle needs to do. They, you know what? It was ever since that game when Cole McCoy beat Russ in Seattle, or maybe it was at home. I don't even remember. Whatever that game was, that was a turning point when I was like, holy shit, exactly what I thought was happening is happening. Seattle is not an above average team anymore. Like they are not what they used to be. And it's time to accept that. Both teams, it worked out in everyone's favor.
Yeah, well,
I think Seattle got the better side, and I'm gonna say it.
Oh, I do too.
Care. I genuinely feel that way.
I do too. So it starts off, 2020. They win the division. I know it feels like ages ago they beat the Rams out for the division and the Niners and the Cardinals, but they did. And I feel like while I want to sit here and say that was a fluke, it wasn't. They went out and got Carlos Dunlap. Blitz Boy actually had more of an impact, that year. They had Quandre Diggs. Like they had guys that were succeeding in their roles, and the defense was playing at another level. The problem is what no one, everyone failed to notice is that the defense was not the reason that they lost in the wild card round of the Rams. It was the offense. The offense had become stagnant. The beginning of the season, Russell Wilson was getting MVP talk, and the offense looked incredible, and no one could stop them. And then it's like they shifted. The defense was historically bad. They became really good down the stretch, and the offense was historically bad down the stretch. So now
I know why.
We move on to 2021. Yeah, we move on to 2021, and I mean, I wasn't really impressed with their draft, and that's what happens when you trade for Jamal Adams. You don't have a first-round pick. You let the draft capital go for safety. I mean, that's just what happens. So now 2021 comes along. You have your moments. You beat teams that maybe you should have lost to start off the season, but then you're exposed. And then Russell Wilson gets hurt. And I said before the season, I think I said it the first time we did a show together, I'm like, I'm not predicting injury, but Russell Wilson is on pace to break the all-time sack record for a quarterback that is held by Brett Favre, and he would be doing that in what, 3 years? Like, he's on pace to do that in 3 years because the Seahawks can't keep him upright. He has been sacked 427 times. The only one that's been sacked as much or more in at least 160 games. He's played 158. Phil Simms and Randall Cunningham. And keep in mind, Cunningham getting sacked, like, he would just go down. He was a running quarterback, whatever. Phil Simms got hit. Like, he was getting mashed into the ground.
Yeah,
But
he was.
Russell Wilson gets tossed on a daily basis by Chandler Jones, Aaron Donald, Von Miller, Leonard Floyd, J.J. Watt. I mean, this is going to add up. Nick Bosa, excuse me, Arik Armstead. I mean, it is brutal. And now, what do? You go out and you get this guy who clearly is not going to be 100%. His decline at least started last year, at the very least. And he's still going to be potentially a top 10 quarterback. But when you look at what the Rams were able to do with Matthew Stafford in that trade, this trade is too much. And I would have been okay with the trade if they traded 2 first-rounders and Drew Lock and maybe a third. But throwing in Shelby Harris? Like, they threw in a locker room presence, one of the close friends of Von Miller who they're trying to get back. And on top of that, they threw in another first rounder because Noah Fant. And you know what? Like, before this trade was confirmed, right? Before we had all the details, I watched The Herd, right? And Colin Cowherd is talking about how, like, I like this. You know, he's going to have Jerry Jeudy. He's got Noah Fant. And then he's like, oh, they traded Fant. Like, I was just like, that was before it was announced. And I'm like,
yeah.
This is what I mean. How could you trade Noah Fant? It doesn't even make sense on Seattle's part to even ask for Noah Fant. Because it's like, if you're blowing it up, like
everyone is acting like what people are failing to also realize or remember. Like, let's cut the crap with like Jeudy and Sutton or some kind of up. They're not an upgrade over Metcalf and Lockett. And I think that Jeudy is still unproven, right? Like, yes, he was very.
I'm not impressed by Jeudy. Last year, he has done nothing.
And yes, I think he adds. This is great for Jeudy, and I hope that Russ is able to elevate him. But like, Russ was struggling to get Metcalf the ball. If you think that he's not going to struggle to get like Jeudy the ball, this might even like. Does this help guys like Tim Patrick more? Like,
the graphics with Tim Patrick and them, like, who's beating this? I'm like, all right. I went on record on many shows this year and said, if Aaron Rodgers goes to Denver, all bets are off for winning the AFC. Russell Wilson's not Aaron Rodgers. And so the mobility factor's cool, but you almost don't even need it because now he's got the offensive line. Although it's going to be a little weird because I saw, and I was right after I was like, oh, they have Mike Munchak. Like, it's going to be great. They let Mike Munchak go. So, like, the best offensive line coach arguably in the league is available, just in case anyone wants to go out and get him. But anyway, the offensive line isn't the issue. Like, when people tell me, well, Russ is going to have an offensive line, the damage is already done. Like, you've been sacked 427 times. In 158 games, getting sacked 427 times, that's not including how many times you've been hit. Because 427 times is not the amount of times you've been hit. You've been hit way more than that. You've been pressured way more than that. You had your first real significant injury since you had the high ankle sprain thing that he played through, which was ridiculous. Russ is an Iron Man. You got to give him all the credit for hanging in there. And I find him really easy to like now, especially that he's away from my rival. But, I mean, let's call it like it is. This is an absolute, if you want to say it, I mean, I'll say it. This is an absolute panic move. This is the fact, Rodgers signed. Damn it. We have to go out and get Russ. And that's what they did. Like, to me, you get Russ, and now it's like, this team is good, but let's not forget, they were pulling guys off of practice squads to start them at linebacker. Like, they still need to fill roles. They still need to, Von Miller's not a guarantee either. And, I just think that there's more to it. I think it's also kind of a cop-out of John Elway, which he's done throughout his, career as, a player personnel guy, is that he doesn't evaluate well. It's why Trevor Siemian started. It's why Brock Osweiler was signed. It's why they let go of Kyle Sloter to start Trevor Siemian to begin with. They just don't evaluate talent well, and they let talent slip through the cracks. And the whole Case Keenum thing. And I'll be honest with you, Bridgewater's not the issue. Like, Bridgewater's not the issue. He was playing well and got hurt, So I look at this and I'm like, you get Russ, and I'm like, how can no one see what this is? It's not Peyton. Like, I think Peyton's doing a good job, George Payton. I think he's a good GM. But like, this screams to me, John Elway's like, help. We picked Pat Surtain, which, by the way, I love him. But we passed on Justin Fields. We thought we were going to get Aaron Rodgers, and we didn't. I can't find anybody that isn't already established. And that is obvious because Drew Lock didn't work out. Teddy Bridgewater they let go of after 1 year. Case Keenum didn't work out. And they haven't had anybody since Peyton Manning.
Yeah, like I simply, one thing I want to say, like, just off of that too, like, again, going back to Brady, like, Brady also was always behind a great O-line and barely got sacked. And now he's getting sacked. And that's whatever. That's a whole other thing.
Yeah.
But like, I do not have sympathy for the Broncos. I have sympathy for the Colts. I do not have the Washington, whatever their new name is. You guys had the opportunity to go out and get your guy, and you chose to go and get someone else.
Yep.
I don't know what you guys can't keep a quarter, the other two especially, but like, you need to figure it out. Like, stop trying to put like a little Band-Aid over it, then draining like it amazes me still that Washington is now going to have Carson Wentz as their starter after watching him in the NFC East, after watching him go to the Colts, who, by the way, has a much better roster than what he's going to get in Washington, and still not get the job done. Like, what are you guys doing? And they aggravate the crap out of me. We were both very high on Washington going into this past year.
Yeah, I felt deceived.
Like, what was that team? Like, what were you guys doing? And why did you not? They should have traded up and gotten a guy and been done with it. And that was a mistake because, I said this on so many shows, these teams that don't trade up and get the guy are going to be kicking themselves next year because the class is not that great. So and it's not like, oh, we're overreacting. No, it's like, it's just legitimately not a strong quarterback class. Is there going to be gems that come out of this? Absolutely. I don't know. Could it be Ritter though? It very well might be. Like, even Dak Prescott's year, right? He didn't go very early on. People were not talking about him. Like,
Ritter's
that's
my
going to be this
QB1,
class.
by the way.
I love him. Yeah, I love him.
I think he's the guy that is going to be way better in the NFL. And I think Cincinnati, I'm not going to say they held him back, but when you had guys like Sauce Gardner and Kobe Bryant and Majai or Sanders, the pass rusher, you had those guys. You had a team that was like they were literally in the college football playoff. They just wanted him to take care of the football. They didn't need him to be Mr. Patrick Mahomes at Texas Tech, like throwing 8 touchdowns against, Oklahoma. I mean, they just wanted him to take care of the football. I think he's going to go to a team. I don't know who it'll be, but I think he's going to go to a team and they're going to let him develop. And I think he's going to be a better pro than he was in college. And I think people are way too quick to just judge. I mean, dude ran a 4.5. So, he's got the speed. They'll figure out a way to use him. If he goes to the right place, watch out. He's going to be a problem. But yeah, I agree with you. I mean, this draft isn't good enough. And I'll be honest. I mean, I don't know what the Eagles are doing because I keep hearing we want to trade Jalen Hurts. We want to keep Jalen Hurts. They're interested in
What is wrong with their front office that they can't shut their mouth? Just shut your mouth until you decide what's going on. Just shut your mouth. They screw themselves every single.
It's disrespectful for Jalen Hurts too. It's like, am I the guy? What am I doing here? Gardner Minshew's like, what am I doing here?
It's ridiculous.
That whole, I mean, to be honest with you right now, as funny as it may sound, and I know you're probably going to laugh, but I'm going to say it. Right now, the most functional organization in the NFC East is the New York Giants right now.
Yeah, you want to know why? You want to know how you,
because they got Shane, they got Shane and Dable. That's it. Like,
and
that's
they're
all
not doing anything. The best way to win the offseason in the NFC
let
East
everyone
is
else
to not
destroy
shut your mouth and let everyone blow up. Because now Washington has they apparently forgot how to do subtraction because they have now gone from, I think they were at 33 mil. Then they've taken on now Carson Wentz's $27 million contract, the entire thing. And who knows? They still have things that they need to fill. And again, like, why are you going and getting him if like you end up taking a quarterback? Then what was the for what purpose? Like, I get it, like to sit, and I get the value in like a good place where I think like if I'm the Atlanta Falcons, I am looking at everyone in this league that has just recently had a quarterback retire. I'm looking at history. I'm looking at how things roll. If I am the Atlanta Falcons, I am taking a quarterback in this draft. I am, and I'm letting him sit by Matt Ryan and then pushing Matt Ryan out the door. But then he's in a great position, right? You've got, Ridley's a whole nother thing. Fine. You've got Pitts there. You'll have to decide what you do with Gage. You can go and get another receiver. You're in a good spot right now. And, Matt Ryan is serviceable still, period. But that can allow someone time to actually develop behind a true veteran, not the veteran they picked up off the street before they brought you on. Like, that's different. I'm talking a veteran, like someone that has been there, a Tony Romo situation, like something like that, where you have someone that's actually sitting and they're actually learning, like, but do it now. Don't wait until it's too late. Unless you're, the next class is better, so I get it. But if you're someone that does like one of these quarterbacks, I'm doing it this draft. And people are going to hate it. But you got to give some of these guys all have issues where they need to develop. Like you can knock all of them.
Think, like Willis and Locke isn't the worst combination in Seattle.
No.
I mean, I think it could be worse.
Well, you could do like a Tua and Fitz thing, how they were like doing that. Maybe you have to do some kind of tango for a little bit too. But
I will say Locke is set up to fail. I feel so bad for him. He is so set up to fail in Seattle, and I don't think
he's their QB1 though. I just don't. I do not believe for 1 second that I don't think that's Seattle's plan. I refuse to believe that they are going to let Drew Lock be the star. I just don't. He's not a QB1. Like,
now, do you lock in Jared Goff as the starter for the Lions? Do you feel like they roll with him? Because I know they're paying him a lot. It's very similar to Wentz, but I mean, if they get a chance, and
you want to hear something spicy? I'll give you spicy right now if you want spicy.
Do it.
I would rather have Jared Goff over Carson Wentz, and I swear to God, I am not even kidding you. I mean that wholeheartedly. I think Jared Goff just gets the job done. Like, if they add a little bit more talent to the Lions and like he doesn't get hurt, like just move on from him next year. Like, I don't know that they need to move on unless they really like Malik Willis or one of these guys, but I don't know. I don't think they're a bad team. I just think they lack talent right now. So it's like, they remind me a lot of
Wentz than you are. But
I can't do the Wentz thing. I'm so over that guy. I can't wait for Xavier McKinney to pick him off 400 times this season.
Here's my thing with Wentz. What we're not talking about, because we're talking about Washington. What the hell? This was a lose deal. Okay, the Colts. I love you, Chris Ballard, but what in the hell are you doing? You have all this.
Literally, what are you doing?
What are you doing? Like, I swear, I said it. I said to my friend who's a Colts fan, they're going to end up with like freaking Andy Dalton starting under center. I'm telling you that right now. Like, Joey Molinaro had an interview with Chris Ballard last year, and he predicted last year that their starting quarterback before they traded for Wentz would be Andy Dalton. I will not be surprised if they end up actually signing and like, look, Andy Dalton, he'll run an offense, right? He'll run an offense. He doesn't have those rookie mistakes here and there. Like, so that's why he, started over Fields. But I mean, the Colts at some point need to realize it's not Reich's fault. And it is not Ballard's fault. It starts at the top. It's Jim Irsay. The guy is too involved. This is why when people are like, how do you like Stan Kroenke? Because Stan Kroenke just fronts the bill. I don't have to hear about Stan Kroenke calling out quarterbacks. I don't have to hear about Stan Kroenke trying to draft Johnny Manziel. I don't have to hear about it. Stan Kroenke just stays out of it. I want the financial moguls out of the football stuff because they hired the guys that will take care of football stuff. Irsay is the problem. They've had about 7 different quarterbacks in 7 different seasons.
I need to know
the problem.
Why
I'm telling you, it's not Wentz. It's him.
Nyheim Hines getting paid as the 11th highest paid running back in this league? Are you guys literally? Sometimes the Colts do things, and I'm like, how wasted are you? Like, you have to be drunk when you make these
As
decisions.
wasted
This
as
is
Ursay is,
crazy.
I don't know.
It doesn't make sense. And the Colts too. Like, you're just pissing away a beautiful roster. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, you need to figure it out. Like, do something. Like, and I get it. I think that Wentz, that was a good shot for him. Yeah. And I think that was a good chance for him. Like, I didn't see that ending up working out because I'm a little bit lower on Wentz than most people. I think that Wentz got the short stick. I think that if Wentz doesn't get hurt that year, I think we see a totally different. He got screwed, period, in the league. His entire story. I feel bad for him. I genuinely feel bad for him because it's not going to work in Washington.
And his season wasn't even that bad. 27 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. I mean, here's the thing, okay? They made an emotionally charged decision to let go of him and trade him, find a home for him. This was Ursay. Ursay basically, I don't know for sure, but I can tell you right now, the way Ursay operates, he was probably like, all right, so Reich, this was your fault. You're either going to own up to it or we're going to fire you. He's like, oh, I'm sorry. You know, it didn't work out the way. All right. And then Ballard, same thing with you. You trade him or we're going to get rid of you. And Ursay took that like late season collapse so seriously. So I mean, he just Wentz could have had an amazing season and it would have all been blamed on Wentz. I mean, why are we not talking about like Jonathan Taylor in the last game of the season against the Jaguars? Had 70-something rushing yard. He wasn't great in that game. You know? Like, why are we going to act like Jonathan Taylor struggled down the stretch, in my opinion, at the level he was performing. The Arizona game gave us all the expectations. Like, this Colts team, remember that primetime game? This Colts team can win a Super Bowl with just their defense alone and Jonathan Taylor.
If I'm the Colts, I don't move on from Wentz. Like, what are you doing? He played he played well enough. And what do you guys all of a sudden?
That's what I'm saying.
You think you're hot shots where you can move on from a quarterback whenever, enough.
Like they're gonna get Trubisky or Dalton or Winston. And
let's get screwed again because it's not gonna work out in Washington. It's not. No. I promise you, it's not.
I don't like Scott Turner as an OC. I just don't.
It's just not a good. It's not a good situation at all. There's no way. I still can't believe that. And then I wonder too, and I don't. We went too political into it. Is is someone go for Washington because it feels like that's happening.
Yeah, I mean, it'll be interesting, throughout the off season and whatnot, because I mean, I need to know where Derek Carr's going because I think he's kind of like the Stafford puzzle, piece of the puzzle. I would say almost him and Deshaun Watson because if Derek Carr, if McDaniels puts away his ego and is like, I'm gonna make Carr work and not have to get my own guy, if he does that, I think they could have a ton of success. And the Raiders are the team in that division where I'm looking at, and no one's talking about them, but I think they're just as deserving as any of those teams. They were just in the freaking playoffs, and that game was close against the team that ended up representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. So the way I look at it is those dominoes need to fall. Carr and not Winston. Well, I guess Winston too, but Watson. We need to know, isn't it today, Friday? We need to know, what is going to happen with the Watson hearing because
it is supposed to be today. It's taking a weird turn too. So this could go in a couple of directions. Now they're talking about, whatever, charging the girl. So it's a whole thing that this is going to be, and if it ends up getting knocked down to a misdemeanor, Watson's playing next year. So it's going to be interesting what ends up happening. And even Jameis Winston, if I'm the Colts, I'm already on the phone. I'm already on the phone.
If I'm Tampa,
I'm already on the phone.
Oh
my God. It's just, these teams are so frustrating with this quarterback situation because I feel like the options are there. What are you doing?
You see now why I was clowning everyone who said that Matthew Stafford was a terrible option and they should have stuck with Jared Goff.
But that's a very you knew that was not working, right? It was not going to work. So sometimes, yes, you need to move on. Carson's a good example. It wasn't working. It should have worked. I don't know. Again, them moving on from him is out of control. But, everyone's so quick to move on from these guys too. Can you let someone just get a little comfortable or what are we doing?
Yeah, I mean, I want to see your guy. I want to see.
I'm old enough to remember. I'm old enough to remember when we let quarterbacks develop. Like,
Yeah. Oh yeah, I just had my buddy Kyle Sloter, who's starting for the Breakers in the USFL. Can't wait for that, by the way. And I just had him on, and we were just talking about like the young quarterback ecosystem. And there's this real quick story. So he was always afraid to ask a dumb, like, questions or whatever, because like when you're a young quarterback, you've been in the league for like 2 years or whatever, like anything you
yeah.
say just kind of feels like you're gonna say something dumb. So he's like, yeah, like let's like add something like this to the offense or whatever. And I might be telling it wrong, but basically, in a long story short, the offensive coach or whatever, he said it was stupid on the Vikings. Sean Mannion that asked the same question. They're like, wow, Sean, that's a great idea. We'll add that to the like. I was like, no way, and he's like, yes way.
That's how I feel about being on Twitter and like being a female in the sports world. It's like I see people make this, like I will make a take and I will get ripped. Like I'm telling you, I will get ripped and shredded for it. Literally within 20 minutes, I will see someone make the same exact. I actually should start putting these back to back. Maybe I will do that. Maybe that'll be my next TikTok adventure. Like I will see the same take by a male getting applauded. Like it's so funny how things like that work. But for real, like I'm genuinely worried about Justin Fields. I was on Adam Rank's show and he was asking me like, would I rather have Daniel Jones or Justin Fields, whatever. I'm like, first of all, both systems are just setting these guys up for failure.
Oh yeah.
If I'm on another team, it's another conversation. On paper right now, Daniel Jones probably has a better situation. He had a better rookie year, and right now, I kind of want Daniel Jones because I don't know what I have fully with Justin Fields. But Justin Fields, I 100% on another team in neither of these systems, I would take Justin Fields every single day.
I like Dable. So, and I like I like Justin Fields. I like Daniel Jones. Right now, I feel like Daniel Jones is the guy, if we're wondering like, wow, he came out of nowhere. Like, let's take a time machine. Let's go like into the future. And the Giants are all of a sudden in the playoffs. And everyone's like, how did this happen? And it's because Brian Dable was like the thing that they were missing. Their defense was solid. Not the best, didn't have to be the best because Brian Dable had this offense turned around. Daniel Jones using him as a dual threat, Josh Allen-like quarterback, and getting the ball into Saquon Barkley's hands in a way that, was strategically beneficial for the rest of the team, which opened up other opportunities, whether they kept Galladay or not, like opened up other opportunities for the receivers. Kadarius Toney, we'll just assume he stayed healthy, and had a really good year. I really do trust Brian Dable. I really do.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's the real deal. I think he's going to help big time. And I trust Shane because I think they're going to get the right guys in that building. So, it might not be like I could totally see the Giants going from, dog water, right? Like this past year to this year being like respectable and making the playoffs and being bounced in the first round by the second seed. Like, I mean, I think you would sign up for that if you're a Giants fan.
Yeah.
I mean, seventh seed this
I'm
year.
nervous because of last year, obviously, but like, again, there was a lot of promise, that past season. It reminds me, not this last, the one before that, it reminds me of like how the Lions were this year, where like they stayed in every game. They beat some really good players. They just have really big holes. You kind of like their coach. He's kind of convincing you it's a good idea. You're in a good draft spot. You have a lot of capital, and it could go one of two ways. I thought it was going in the right direction. It went in the total opposite direction.
That was crazy.
Injuries were not in our favor. I know the two of us were high, and I'm scared to get too excited. But again, like, I do believe the Giants will be good again. I don't know when that's going to be, but like there's teams where I'm like, there is no hope for you guys. Like you have like a decade to go. Whereas like the Giants, I do not feel that way. I genuinely feel like they can, if everything goes smoothly and they nail this draft, and like even Shane, he came in there. He's already the first cutting Rudolph, cutting this person, getting rid of Riley Dixon is massive. That shows how much he actually is looking at the games, looking at what he has, looking at how much money, looking at what they can do in the draft, and actually making changes that puts players in better positions to do well. Look at these guys. You have Zeitler coming off a career high year. You have Dalvin Tomlinson coming off a career high year. You have all these guys, they leave, and all of a sudden now they're good. Flowers played well. Come on. That's ridiculous. You see these guys, they leave, they go to another team, and suddenly they're doing well. Whereas like back, the early 2000s, around that Super Bowl we won, like players wanted to come to New York to get better. Like we were the place you came to and you got better. Plaxico came and got better. But now it's like a joke. Like, and you have to get guys to, and at least it's New York, right? It's a good franchise. So players will still be enticed to come here. But if they are not smart, they could start losing that.
I think every New York team this upcoming year, is going to take a leap forward. I don't know how big of a leap, but I could see like the Jets are in position to like totally fleece the draft. They could get, hear me out when I say this, they could get Thibodeau, who I think is the best pass rusher in this draft, and they could get Sauce Gardner. And you couple that with the fact that they also have, the guy that they got from Virginia, the 5th round pick, Bryce Hall, who should not have been a 5th round pick. I don't know why he's a 5th round pick, but he was. They have the kid from California, the safety, who I'm forgetting his name. They have a lot of young talent: Quinnen Williams, John Franklin Myers, Blake Cashman. They have a lot of guys that I really like on that team. Plus, then you have, we'll see what, Mr. Golden Boy quarterback does.
Yeah. And you know what? I will say he did develop, right? Like they threw him into a shitstorm. And at the end, I'm not saying he developed a lot, but he played.
Well, you saw some improvement, and that's what you're hoping for.
And that's what you want, right? Especially when you're thrown in there, like, because we always talk, like, I really hate when they, they bring on these rookie QBs and you wonder why. Oh, he was a top recruit. Why does he suck? Yeah, it's because, like, he's going to a shitstorm. So it's, what are you expecting? Yeah. But they got better, and they were smart because they started to surround him with a little bit more than guys in the past.
Elijah Moore. I'm excited for his future. I think he's going to be
Michael Carter. They've got really some guys over
Michael
there.
Carter. Yeah. I mean, he came on strong towards the end of the season. I mean, we're talking a guy that really helped in both aspects. And I'm pretty sure he made me so much money because I just kept taking the prop of over on his receptions and they never raised it. So I was like, I'll take 5.5 all day. I mean, he's catching he's, 8 or 9 receptions again, so I agree. And then, obviously the Bills, I think, are the best team in the AFC. And I don't know what your thoughts are, but I don't know how why are the Chiefs ahead of the Rams? Why are the Chiefs ahead of the Rams in the Super Bowl odds? What are the Chiefs? The Chiefs, let me tell you this right now. This is the first year of Mahomes' new contract where they're going to get smacked over the head with that cap hit. And
guess what's coming? I think everyone should look at who's going to hit free agency next year, because this team is in for a fat rude awakening. They've got the list is this long. They are going to be in it. It's not going to be pretty next year.
I know they're going to call us haters, but we're just being real.
I don't care. I said it last year. I told you guys they weren't going to the Super Bowl, and guess what? They didn't go to the Super Bowl. So that's fine. It's not going to. It's not easy to go back to the Super Bowl.
I can't believe I'm saying this because last time on your show, I said Josh Allen's not daddy. Josh Allen is not the number. Josh Allen ended up being QB1, basically. Josh Allen looks better than Patrick Mahomes right now. And I think that should absolutely terrify the world.
It should. I don't think
I mean,
Patrick Mahomes, he definitely, he came into the league and, definitely once he got out there, I mean, he's a phenomenal quarterback. That's not.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
No knock to him.
He was my guy. So, QB1 the draft. I mean, I love the guy, but
everyone needs to realize, it's okay. It's okay that Mahomes isn't the number one quarterback in the league. It's okay. You don't have to take him. Patrick Mahomes is not 101. I just want to make that very clear in fantasy. He has not done that. There's no I cannot believe that he's still getting ranked consensus as the QB1. That is blasphemy to me.
Josh Allen is, and I don't see it relatively being close because of his athleticism. He's able to get those yards, the rushing yards, rushing touchdowns, which in standard, I mean, you're talking about 6 instead of 4. I mean, I care about that. I care about that. I like the rushing touchdowns for quarterbacks, but Josh Allen, the thing about him is that when it mattered most in, the playoffs, I mean, let's be honest here. The only reason they weren't in the Super Bowl against the Rams is because of the overtime rule. I mean, they would have won. If it was completely different, there's no way the Chiefs stop so I don't want to hear from them. But
Mhm.
the thing with Josh Allen is that I've given him a lot of flack. He was my 7th overall quarterback. I was somewhat of a hater, coming out of the draft. I will say I was at the Senior Bowl and I saw him, and he's got his velocity is every bit you see on TV. I mean, it is special.
Mhm.
But the thing
Mhm.
with Josh Allen that I was really impressed with in that game against the Chiefs is the fact they tried to take away Stephon Diggs. They tried to take away Dawson Knox. They tried to take away Cole Beasley and Emmanuel Sanders. And he said, all right, Gabe Davis, you ready to have a career day? He doesn't care. He's not one of those guys that's like when Goff was with the Rams, he was obsessed with Cooper Kupp. Like,
Mhm.
you see guys that are like they go with that one guy. Josh Allen spreads the ball out. And Josh Allen
Yeah.
is this good without a true number 1 running back. I mean, I
Yeah.
like what they have, like, as far as a rotation, but, like, give them Breece Hall and watch that team just light people on fire. I mean, that would be horrifying. Look at how good this team is. Look at how good Josh Allen is, and the run game isn't scary.
Yeah. I mean, that was part of their problem, right? Like, and a lot of these teams don't realize is like, it's so awesome to have a mobile quarterback. Like, that
Yeah,
is fantastic. RPOs design, I love it. I love that journey for them. You still need to have an RB1. You cannot rely 100% on your freaking quarterback to be your running game. Like, that's why his numbers look like that, is because they don't have options. Like, that's why they lost the Patriots. Like, they had an inability to run the ball. And we see this all the time. Like, yes, it is turning into a passing friendly league. And I get that. And things are changing. You will not win. You will not go far without a running game. Like, if you cannot run the ball, you cannot make it full. It's so important. And they did improve
exactly.
that. And Singletary, and you want to know why they improved that? Because they actually got Singletary involved. And then they were finding ways, how do we use Singletary and how do we make him better? And they were doing that. And even Singletary, those last like 6 weeks, I mean, he was like RB4 or something crazy. Like, that's a little
Steph,
bit high, but it's
I
something,
just
whatever.
realized you know who's a free agent? McKinnon. Imagine
I know.
McKinnon in
I was
Buffalo.
gonna say that.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Can you imagine rubbing the
Yeah.
salt in the wounds of the Chiefs that they went out and got McKinnon, made him their
Right?
guy?
Is McKissick too?
I think McKissick is. Connor is. So if they were like, you know
Leonard
what,
Fournette is. Maybe Leonard Fournette
Fournette.
wants another. Maybe he wants. Yeah, I don't
Hell,
know.
I'll say
There's a
this.
lot of guys.
He gets a lot of hate, but if Kalen Balaj got a chance with the Bills
Please
offensive
give my
line,
Kalen Balaj a damn
yes.
chance.
I'd
Please,
love
I
to see
love
him in
him.
LA, but like I'm saying, like, why does everyone just ignore the fact, like, all that
He's
production
just
he
so
had in
good.
that small amount of time when they needed him to with the Chargers because Eckler was out? Everyone just ignores like what he did. Those games he
I
came.
was so excited for him on the Steelers, and like obviously I love Najee Harris, but like, god damn it, Najee, like that was your fault. Like it was Balaj's time.
Well, what was even worse about that, Steph, is he gets hurt, right? And then they're like Benny Snell. I'm like,
Benny Smells. That's his name. Benny Smells. Stop with the Benny Smells carries. I'm done. I cannot take it. Steelers are another interesting one. I'm definitely gonna have to have you on again this week because I really want to talk Steelers. I could do a whole episode on them. But
I want to see
seriously,
McFarland. McFarland needs like an
I'm
opportunity
so
to be
stressed.
used in the passing game. And here's the thing, Steph, I like looking at like different things. So when you have a running back coach or you have an offensive
Mhm.
coordinator and they coach that guy in college, I'm like, ooh, like my ears perk up. Like I'm excited for, I mean, I don't know if I'm excited, but like I'm interested in Xavier Jones, who was one of the top rushers all time at SMU, and now Thomas Brown, who was the Rams running back coach, he moved to the tight ends coach. He just hired Rashad Samples, who is he's like the next big
Mm.
thing in coaching. I don't know if you're aware of him. He's the number one or one of the top recruits in the country at 28 years old because he had to medically retire. Rashad Samples was he just actually became the assistant head coach at TCU, and now he's the Rams running back coach.
Mm.
He basically he was there when they recruited Xavier Jones, so there's that SMU connection. But the reason I brought this up, because I want to throw that out there, but the reason I brought this up is because Anthony McFarland was coached by none other than Matt Canada, who is the offensive coordinator for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So I would love to see that connection get something going this year because it was pretty
Mm,
non-existent last year. And that
yeah,
guy is a talent. They just got to figure out a way to use him.
yeah. There's teams, still like I would closely watch the Steelers. Like they're gonna really make some moves, and if they can figure out some situation in that quarterback spot, they because it's a nice O line pass. Don't be the Steelers give that division hell next year because they have the weapons. You could even, there's whatever. Everyone has a different opinion. Fine, Juju's gonna be gone, but they really have everything to be able. They just need to again wrap it all together and get your next. That's another. Why do you guys not get it? I'm not mentioning it. Why did you get a quarterback to sit in bed?
Yeah. Again, Mason Rudolph is not going to cut it. I can tell you that much.
Can we just get a quarterback? Like I think it should be like a position. It needs to be and back and actual like that needs like Nick Foles is a back, and then we have who a better backup. It's okay to be a backup quarterback. Drew Lock.
No, I agree with that. I mean, I agree. I think,
Like,
we're always trying to like promote a guy, and it's like sometimes like, like I'll say this. I think guys get bad raps and they don't get like the chances. Like I'd say Minshew is way more deserving, being a starter than a backup. I think he's proven that. I think the only issue with Minshew is the arm talent. Obviously he doesn't have the biggest arm and doesn't have the most he doesn't put the most mustard on the ball, so to speak, but he is a good quarterback. I think he could start in Indy and you would be okay. With the Steelers, they're either going to trade up, bite the bullet, and realize, look, we're not going to get any of these quarterbacks. We like Malik Willis. They're going to trade up and they're going to get Malik Willis. Or what they'll do is they'll be involved in this Deshaun Watson thing, or what they'll do is they'll either sign Trubisky, Winston, Mariota, one of those, or they'll try and trade for, like a Jordan Love. And I know that was like a rumored thing for a while. People were like, well, if the Steelers get Aaron Rodgers or, whatever, then they could get, go after Jordan Love or something like that. Like, the Steelers aren't an organization that is complacent. They're the organization that does things the right way. I truly think they're the best organization in the game. I mean, when you look at it, they've only had like 3-4 head coaches. Ben Roethlisberger lasted that long. That's how they want to operate. They don't want to do what the Colts do and bring in a revolving door of quarterbacks. So that like leads me to believe that it's either going to be a guy like Winston or Trubisky that you want to develop long term, or it's going to be a guy that you trade up and you get, or maybe they'll just get Desmond Ridder and be like, all right, Ridder, you show us what you can do. Like,
yeah,
I don't know,
I could.
but they're
They're a
fun
very
to
calculated.
watch.
Yeah, they're a very calculated front office. Like I think people, Ben is gone, and it's like, oh no, like Ben was barely able to even like walk the last couple. Like he really declined very fast there, and like they still were able to compete. Like they still have the guys there. They have a very good defense. Like, and they also the draft is coming. They can go ahead and draft what their needs are. They can fix that O line pretty nicely. There's a lot of band-aids that you can throw on there from the draft, so you don't have to spend a lot. So do you go out and get one of these guys that you believe in? That doesn't feel very much like the Steelers to me. Like I feel like it's either going to be Watson, who's not really tied to it because of everything that happened, or they're going to go and get a young guy.
See, I would actually really like Trubisky because if they can
Please
give him
just
a
keep
shot,
him off the Giants. Please take him. They can have him. Please. If we pay Mitch Trubisky more than $6 million, I promise you I will burn Twitter down. I will burn it down. Maybe MetLife.
You're not a fan of him?
It's not that I'm not a fan of him. I just don't. What is for what purpose are we?
Well, I don't see why the Giants would get him.
Yeah, it
if they
makes no
have
sense. You want to
Daniel
have an
Jones.
unproven QB and an unproven QB battle? Like, are you weird? That just doesn't even. We're gonna pay him already
Those
being broke.
quarterback battles never work out.
It
Here's
doesn't
what the
work.
quarterback battles do. They get you Drew Lock versus Teddy Bridgewater, and then
Hmm.
you pick one, you stunt the other's growth. So
One gets hurt,
Drew,
and then the other one goes in. Hasn't played all season because you
yeah,
let him lose in a fake battle, and then you get crap. So,
yeah, it's ridiculous. And then, it's and then you get the case of like the Joe Flacco's of the world who actually, they win a Super Bowl and they're successful, but you don't take care of them, and then they hurt their
mhm,
back, they tear their PCL, all sorts of stuff, and then they fall off a cliff. I feel
yeah.
like a lot of these organizations, like they've really let these guys. I'll say this right now. I don't know why everyone acts like he's so pedestrian. Case Keenum's better than Baker Mayfield. Like the Browns would be better off starting Case Keenum. And if Case Keenum were to go to the Steelers,
What
like
about
they would be
Huntley
competitive.
too? Like, why are we not talking about the Ravens backup too? Like, I think
Oh,
he made
Huntley. I
a
thought you said Brett
pretty
Hundley.
strong. Yeah, no, no, no. He made a pretty strong argument for himself. Like, I would be like at least getting on the phone and talk and seeing like what you could
Or
maybe get from.
you ready for this outside the box one?
Okay.
Davis Mills.
Oh,
Hear me
I
out.
love Davis Mills so much. I love him with my whole entire heart. I love him.
Like, imagine this, right? The Steelers are like, you know what? We were really impressed with the way Davis Mills kept his composure, wasn't playing like there wasn't a lot of talent around him. He kept his composure. He was putting, they almost beat the Titans the last game of the year. First off, they shouldn't have fired their coach. Well, that's another story. But they put
Mhm.
on a good show against the Titans. I mean, Davis Mills had Danny Amendola over 100 yards. Danny Amendola, like this guy's 36, 37 years
Yeah.
old now. Like Danny Amendola was over 100 yards. I think what Mills did with a not that great running game, with not that great of receivers. I mean, they didn't really use Nico Collins enough. Like, you know where I'm going with this. I feel like if the
Yeah.
Steelers were to go after him, that would make sense because they won't trade him to the Colts. They're not going to trade in in the division. The Steelers though, I could see, and what the Steelers would do is they'd give up like a second or a third round pick, and I feel like the Texans would consider that
That's really
because
interesting. Yeah. People don't
it's like
realize too, like Mills is only like the second rookie QB to be able to throw 3 touchdowns against the Patriots since Bill took over. Like he
yeah,
quietly had the highest passer rating in the red zone of all the QBs, like the last X amount of weeks. It was like 113, like for consistently. Like he quietly had a very good year. He had obvious rookie struggles and like
we
the
told
Buffalo
people
game wasn't pretty, but
he'd
like
fit like a
I love
glove.
Davis Mills. Actually a perfect example of there wasn't a lot of film on him, so he stinks. Like, shut up. That's you have to
You know,
look at what you have. Like that
well,
doesn't amount to success in the league.
before the 49ers traded up and they got Trey Lance, like our guy. Before they trade up and got Trey Lance,
Seinfeld.
you know, they the perfect fit for Kyle Shanahan's offense was Davis Mills. So
Hmm.
like if they didn't trade up and get Trey Lance, like
Hmm.
Davis Mills would have been totally acceptable in my opinion in the third round.
Like it's
And that's the
impressive
thing.
alone what Davis Mills was able to do on a like
Yeah.
when you do these mock drafts, right? It says like the team, the needs, and like has the needs listed. The Texans quite literally says word for word every position. Like the Texans is not. They're that franchise alone is a disaster. For him to go in there and play the way he did as a rookie is very impressive.
I mean, I wouldn't trade him personally if I had him. I like him.
I would
I'd like
keep
the
him. Yeah,
opportunity. But what I'm saying is like, if you feel like, okay, Gardner Minshew you like, but you want like a younger guy, like even younger than Minshew, and you want a guy that you kind of feel like, all right, he's our guy, he's homegrown, even though he played a year with Houston. You get him that early
mm-hmm.
on, you sell him to your fan base. And with Mills, it's like so the Steelers they trade a third or like a second for Mills, and then like Houston either decides, look, Deshaun, things are not going well for you. We can keep you. You can stay here. We can build around you. We're committed
Mm-hmm.
to you. Or you could trade Deshaun, and with the capital you get, you can try and trading up and go out and get, Malik Willis. And now all of a sudden,
Mhm.
that's how you sell it to your fan base. We like Mills, we appreciate his contributions, but we found a better option and we went up and got Willis.
Yeah.
Or hear me out with this one, all of the capital you got from Watson doesn't need to be just for a quarterback. You go with a Tyrod Taylor and you have him battle Trubisky or whoever, placeholder quarterback. You suck for a year. Then next year, you're in prime position to get a Bryce Young. And to me, I feel like Houston, I mean, let's be honest here. They want to hire Josh McCown. We know that. We know why they didn't
Mhm.
hire Josh McCown. Uh,
Mhm.
but they're using, whether it's right or wrong, they're using Lovie Smith as a placeholder. So they're not going to
Mhm.
try to put a bunch of talent around when they're going to fire their coach after a year. So I think
Mhm.
that actually would make some sense. You get some capital for Mills, you get a ton of capital for Watson, and then you set yourselves up to get the best quarterback prospect the next 2 years combined, in my opinion, in Bryce Young.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a right way to do it, and there's a very wrong way to do it. Everyone panics and they make these very irrational decisions when it's like, just for a second, think about beyond this year. Think about beyond the right now. Like, again, like I even tell Giants fans all the time, like last year I predict us to win 5 games. I said the ceiling there is absolutely 8, 9. We could have that conversation. The floor, we didn't even get there. Like
Yeah.
to think that we got a new GM, a new coach, knew this, knew that, like that does not mean that we're gonna win more than 4 or 5 games. But that's okay. Like you need to progress you need to head in the right direction and not get off track. These teams get so far off track, and it's like, I just want to get back on track, head in a forward motion, and play watchable football. Like fans
Is it
would
that
not
hard?
expect as much if you showed them like a little bit that you were just getting a little bit better. But being a complete dumpster fire and then mismanaging how you hire coaches, mismanaging how you handle loyal players that you have on the team too. Like you're just getting rid of these guys that have been like producing for you. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know.
There's also not like I feel like we were so what's the word, pampered, I guess. Like we got lucky.
Mhm.
Our
Mhm.
you know our football watching experience was a lot different because we got Peyton
Yeah.
Manning, Tom Brady, Aaron
Well, it's
Rodgers, Ben
sad.
Roethlisberger,
Yeah.
Philip Rivers, Eli Manning. The list goes on. I mean, we had a lot of talent.
It was
And
the same
Drew
guys
Brees.
on every team. Tony Romo for
And
years
and
too.
that's
Like,
the thing. So like this idea of quarterback movement is almost like new to us because you don't see it in this scale. But like the fact is, I think it's a lot of teams that just can't, like there's so many teams that are so stubborn, even though they're sitting there with their 5-11 seasons. They're so stubborn at the idea, well, I can't start a Davis Mills at quarterback, so I got to try and draft another guy, or I got to try and go after somebody, like try to get Philip Rivers out of retirement. I mean, that's literally where we're at, Seth, is that people like in the organizations and like, executives around the league can't just accept the fact that Jameis Winston is a rosterable starting quarterback in this league. Mitch Trubisky deserves another shot. Marcus
yeah.
Mariota deserves another shot. We can't
Yeah.
give those guys another shot because we're trying to make things out of thin air. We're like, wait, but there's got to be another star quarterback somewhere. Like maybe we'll just conjure one with our hands. Like that's not how this works. Like you missed the bus. You missed out on Russ. You missed out on Stafford. Carr might not get traded.
And then
You
you
made
have your
some moves.
guy, and you're like, let's draft Jordan Love and piss him off, and then let's end up paying the guy that we actually like way too much money that ends up screwing us in the end because we can't pay the talent that he
Oh
wants
yeah.
around, and then he's gonna get mad again. It's like it's not just
And then
use
the
a little bit of
Dolphins,
common
oh
sense.
my God, then people
Oh
saying the
God.
Dolphins should just like the Dolphins should get rid of Tua. Oh yeah, but they definitely shouldn't develop him, and they definitely shouldn't try to develop him with their new offensive minded coach who they're saying is the next big thing in offensive coaching in Mike McDaniel. Like definitely not, right? Like
Why don't you
you
guys just have confidence in your quarterback? Stop doing creepy things where you're switching quarterbacks in and out for a vet. You're letting rumors fly around because your front office doesn't shut their mouth. Like those are not things that should be getting out. Like,
Chris
news
Greer.
should be shocking. Like, when the Russell Wilson thing came out, like that, it should be that shocking. Like, we should all be like, what the hell just happened? Like, there shouldn't be rumors. We knew Wentz was leaving, going to Washington. You probably could have put it together after the Russ. We heard that they didn't like what they offered for Russ. You probably could have put that together, but like, it should be a shocking thing because no one should hear about it. It shouldn't be this, like, now rumors are getting out that Wentz is going to get benched and Jalen Hurts is going to be the guy. And then the last game, you have some goon come in and play. Like, they don't give these guys any confidence. Like,
no. And like, I mean, I don't know. There's a guy by the name of Taylor Heineke who is not the best quarterback in the world, but he's good enough to start on a team that doesn't actively have a quarterback and is running out of options. And I think that's the problem is a lot of these teams are stubborn. And one of them is the Browns.
You can win a game with Heineke and you can't win a game with Mike Glennon. Like, those are two very different things. Like, and that's kind of what I mean. Like, let's normalize being a good backup quarterback, someone that you actually maybe pay more than people would like, but that's because, you know, if someone goes down, you have an option that can come in. What you can't do is, like, if it's a bad situation, if you have a bad scheme, you have bad players, everything is bad. It doesn't matter who you put in there. So but if you should be able to get by, like, Colt McCoy is a great backup quarterback.
One of the best.
You can win games. The Giants leave. That's a whole, why they got rid of him. I don't know. Colt McCoy is one of those guys that, you know, he goes in, he's going to win the game. You're going to see him for 3 games a year, and that's it. He's going to win 2 out of 3, or he's going to get you at least 1.
Well, and we forgot to mention Teddy Bridgewater's out there.
Yeah.
Like, there are teams that are like so desperate. Like, they're like, oh, well, we can't have Teddy Bridgewater, but, you know, we're just going to have our incredibly high expectations and hope that Watson, like, I'm sorry, but Indy, you're not getting Watson. So if that is your plan, find another plan. And it's the same thing with, like, the Dolphins aren't trading Tua, so he's not an option. Let's just go through them. The Patriots, they're not trading Mac Jones, so stop that. Zach Wilson's not getting traded, and Josh Allen is far from getting traded. So
I hope Kirk Cousins gets traded because that fan base is so rude. Like, you guys don't know how good you have it. To not miss games is an unbelievable, like, it's not a feat that a lot of quarterbacks go through. Like, having Eli Manning, who played every single game, is that, like, that's not a normal thing. And there's something to that. That's why you can win games with guys, because you have reliability. They're there. They show up. They play every game. They're at practice. They don't get injured. And you're allowed to be a game manager because you're always there.
My father and I were just talking about Eli Manning and how, like, we kind of feel like him and Phil Simms are kind of similar, because Phil Simms is, like, unbelievably underrated. And Eli Manning has gotten to the point where he's underrated too. And, like, I know people say he's overrated because, you know, we talk about, you know, Hall of Fame, but, like, if this, like, the era of football, the way it is right now, if this doesn't show you how underrated Eli is, I'm sure there'd be a dumb team that would be like, hey, Eli, you want to come out of retirement? Because they're so incapable. Like, we just talked about it earlier with Elway. They're so incapable of actually finding guys on their own that they have to wait until other teams develop those said guys for them.
Yeah, and then you bring over a guy that's already broken because he's been abused by the team you got him from. Like, it's crazy. Like, Tannehill got a very lucky scenario. I think that he's like a
that doesn't happen.
Of, like, doesn't happen often. Who it's going to happen to if they move on from him is Daniel Jones, mark my words. But, like, people don't appreciate what they have. Like, Kirk Cousins, yes, he's a dork, and his rib cage pads are a little much, and he does make weird mistakes, and he gets nervous, but there's also, like, a lot to like about Kirk Cousins. He's a very accurate passer. They don't let him pass the ball much. Like, you're not giving him a lot of options to be, and guess what? He's at every game. He's at every game, and he goes there and he does what he needs to do. He shuts his mouth. He has good character. There's no tabloids about him. Like, there is value to that, because then it's a piece in the locker room you don't have to worry about.
I always liked him, and I feel like we've kind of
I don't think he's great. Like, but he's still, he's a good quarterback. Like, he's not a backup quarterback. Like, Kirk Cousins is very deserving of his spot on
Before it
the team.
became easy to cop like a really good quarterback in fantasy, because I don't know why, but like we went through a period where it wasn't easy. You had to spend
Yeah.
like a really high pick because people would be like, "Oh, Tom Brady and Aaron
Yeah.
Rodgers and Drew Brees," you know. And I would always be like the Philip Rivers, Matt Ryan guy of the
That's who
world who would like,
I
yeah,
always I'm like no QB. I'm like whatever. I would take all these guys at the bottom. Kirk Cousins is
that's
another one. I will take I
exactly like
even
Kirk Cousins would be in that tier.
mhm,
But I mean, now it's easy because now I can get Lamar Jackson and laugh at everybody because I can get
mhm.
Lamar and I could get Daniel
Kyler
Jones.
Murray at this point too, like
Yeah,
is
you could.
already yeah, you can
I
Daniel
don't even
Jones
know.
too.
I don't
People
even know what's going
forget
on with Kyler
how
Murray.
yeah, that's a
Is
whole
he gonna be in Arizona? Because if he's
yeah, he is. He's
available,
not going
then
anywhere.
you know,
Yeah, that's a good option, but he's not going anywhere.
yeah,
He's that
I
guy.
mean that would
He
be
just wants to get paid. That's all. He saw people get paid, and but guess what? You also have to freaking play on the field. But with
yeah.
Daniel Jones in fantasy,
You have to
and
win a
uh,
playoff game,
yeah,
whatever
like you have to
at
do
least play
something
like
you
you're
can't
trying to play a
do.
playoff.
Like right, and I think he's
Yeah,
like frustrated too. Arizona is like they're just running in place. That's what they do. They run in place. They something's got to give, or they're just going to be this above average team that plays really hot in the beginning and then just it collapses.
well,
Like
I
I
think
can't believe they extended Cliff. Like again,
that's a
another
concern of
organization.
mine with Kyler is that if you
Hmm.
look, Steph, like earlier in the year, he looked like the MVP.
Hmm.
And he wears down every single
Hmm.
year he's been in the NFL, and that's a concern to me. And
Hmm.
those guys that doesn't typically get better over time. So,
No.
that is that's why like nobody in the NFC West is concerned with the Cardinals. Like that's just the way it is. Like the Rams kind of gave them a rude awakening on that Monday Night Football game, and that was before the playoffs. Like when they won at their home, that was, like, kind of like a okay like, it's almost like
Hmm.
there was a passing of the torch, and then they took the torch and they were too scared to hold it, so they gave it right back to the Rams. Like, that's
Yeah.
how it felt, and then
Yeah, and
you
you know
saw in the
who?
playoffs,
Hmm.
34-11. How do you even sell
Hmm.
to a fan base? Like, "Yeah, so, we lost 34-11 in the wild card round." Like, I think this is a
Like
team that
what?
was the only undefeated team in the league, and they lost
It's the
thirty-four to
same
eleven the
thing
first
with
round of
like,
playoffs.
right? Like the Cowboys every year. Like if you're facing the Cowboys at any point in the later part of the season or the postseason,
Yeah.
like don't worry, you're fine. Because guess what? Cowboys aren't going to the freaking Super Bowl. They are not going. They're not going next year. They're not going in 10. It's they have to make some serious changes if that's going to happen. But you don't worry about them. Oh, you're playing Rodgers in the first round of the playoffs. Don't worry. You're definitely fine there because if you're
They
playing at
haven't won a
any point,
divisional
it does not
round.
matter. Yeah.
They haven't won in the divisional round since, like, 1993.
Like exactly. So these
I
teams, and
mean,
that's I think that's a reflection on the way that those organizations are run because it's like, yeah, you guys are scary in season, but guess what? Like towards the end, things start getting a little. Except
it's
for the
gonna be
Packers,
awkward when they
they'll
lose Micah
stay strong.
Parsons.
Yeah, it is going to be
Micah
awkward.
Parsons is gonna, like, sign somewhere for a lot of money, and, like, the fan base is gonna be, like, absolutely in shambles, but, that's kinda why I feel like no matter like, we talked about this, well, I mean, I'm sure we've talked about this a lot, actually. No team wins the NFC East back to back. And I am not sitting here thinking Dallas is going to do that. I feel like they're trying not to win back to back, making the move that they're making with Amari Cooper. I don't get it. Amari Cooper is not the best receiver in the league, but he's very good. And he's actually somewhat underrated because while he has had his injuries, like you're talking about Michael Gallup is the reason that you're going to let him go. Michael Gallup is injury city right now. I mean, he's constantly
Mhm.
hurt. He got hurt to start the season, had that, I believe it was a calf injury. And then later on, he comes back and then he tears his ACL. I don't
It
know
just
what
shows
the
me you also
Cowboys are
don't
doing.
look at analytics, you don't watch film because there is a very clear, like it's very clear that Dak does better when Amari is around. Dak
Yeah.
does
I don't,
better when Zeke is involved. Like they don't play into what. And then Dak's a whole nother story too. But it's like these organizations, like what are you guys doing? Why are you paying Zeke? That
oh,
contract is out of control.
I
What are you
told you,
doing?
RB2, Powell's better, baby. He's been better.
It's
Pollard.
a
Sorry,
Pollard,
Tony
yeah,
Pollard.
yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Tony
in
Pollard has been
a they're
better.
in a yeah, they're in a bad but yeah,
You
but then
should
they
feel
screw
great
themselves.
because, what's his face? DeMarcus Lawrence is probably going to leave.
Right,
I
and
don't
you
know.
look at it this way,
Doesn't
right? No one
sound
runs
good.
it back, so it's not going to be the Eagles. There's no way because it's just not a thing. That's odds. And
They can't stick
if
with Jalen Hurts. They're
honestly,
like, I don't know. Like,
I will make a public apology to Carson Wentz if he wins the NFC East for the Washington Commanders. I will make a public I will apologize personally.
I would like to see Wentz kind of, show that, hey, he was an MVP caliber quarterback,
Yeah.
not long ago. I'll be honest with you, he didn't have a bad season. Okay.
No, he
Like,
didn't. He
it
definitely
was
didn't.
the moments seemed too big for him. But I
Mhm.
also, again, I think it was an emotionally charged decision by Jim Irsay. He's the problem. I think Reich in year two probably would have been a different story in that offense.
Mhm.
I'm also tired of us acting like he had all these weapons. I mean, he had a running game. He had Hines. That's great. But like Michael Pittman was good. People are already overrating him. He had an aging T.Y. Hilton who is probably not going to be back this year. And on
Mhm.
top of it, Paris Campbell, when is he ever going to be healthy? Jack Doyle
Right.
retired. And Jack Doyle wasn't very good. Miley Cox was his
Yo,
other
if
go-to.
they get a damn tight end, take Evan Ingram. Do something. You
Well,
guys
no,
need
no, no.
actually.
They got one. Kylan Granson from SMU.
Okay.
I'm
Interesting.
very high on Kylan Granson.
Interesting.
I mean, I need to know who the hell's throwing him the football, but I'm
Yeah,
very
that's
high on
true.
him. Go back, watch his film. He's got
Okay.
good tape from SMU. You'll
All
like
right.
him. He's the type of guy that you like.
Okay. All right, we're gonna end it on that. That's a good note to end it on, or else you and we could talk all day, and I have to get to an appointment before I celebrate Friday because this week has been crazy. Why don't you tell everyone what
Yes.
you're working on, where they can find you, and we'll find time next week. Let's just start doing this weekly thing because it's very therapeutic, especially with all this chaos going on.
Hell yeah. I couldn't agree more. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on. You can find me, pretty much all my stuff is on Twitter. There's a link to everything at Jake Bogan. I just like to steer people there. If they don't have a Twitter, you can just Google Jake Ellenbogen. You'll find something that I'm doing. Right now, pretty much just working on NFL draft content, Rams content. I have a gaming channel now, so that's different. But
Cool.
just working on all different types of content, getting
Yes.
more into the betting game over the last year. So,
Yes, which is
you
a
know,
blast. It definitely is that
it's
whole
finally legal in New York. So that's
yes,
why,
you
but
love to see it. But
you'll
thank you
love
so
to
much for
see it.
coming on.
Absolutely.
We'll definitely catch up again next week. You guys know where you can find me on Twitter at Steffi Smalls, 3 L's. All my stuff is there. The rest of it at Champions Round. Instagram, TikTok, I'm starting to dabble with a little bit more, which is fun. And yeah, all this stuff. Be sure you guys can check out the app too. A lot of people don't realize we have very cool micro fantasy, our own types of games, betting games, 7 stakes contests. They're a blast. So definitely go check those out. I'm going to go watch the players, which is going on. Hopefully my bets did well, and have a good weekend.